Over at Brad's house now, and we're looking at this monster that he's been working on. He's done quite a bit of modifications to it. I've helped him out with some of it, but this is a 212 Predator non-Hemi, and then there's my Hemi that I'm working on right there for the drift kart that I'm going to be building. This one's going back on the Yerf Dog. This poor engine's been off and on that Yerf Dog so many times, it's ridiculous.
I can do it blindfolded with one hand.
Yeah, blindfolded with one hand behind your back, I'm sure.
Easily.
Yeah. So what all have you done to this, Brad?
Well, this one, of course, standard governor removal as always. I've ported the head, or polished both sides of the head as usual. I went a little overboard. I opened them up. I opened them up. I took as much out of them as I possibly could take. We shaved the head on one other go, and of course wanted to check valve clearance before we took any more. We checked the valve clearance, and I still had an insane amount of clearance. So we shaved her down some more, and then realized, okay, that should stop because the plug will probably be 3.5 mils, maybe 4 from the end of the piston. That's what stopped us from shaving the head some more. Not the valves, the plug. But the head shaved, she's been ported, polished, opened up. Going to a 22 millimeter Mikuni with a 65 millimeter adapter just to give it a little more length. And changed the plug wire out, shortened it by probably 3 inches or so. Went to an 8 mil double core Excel wire and an E3 platinum plug.
Yeah, that's a 0 resistor plug and 0 resistance on that plug wire, so we should be getting a lot more power and spark going into that engine and a hotter detonation. And that plug doesn't have like the single electrode. It's got a plate that's notched on the bottom of it, and that plate's going to take up a little bit more compression room too.
And of course it's got 18-pound valve springs, which should be enough. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find out either way what's going to happen. It'll go boom, or it'll go big, or it'll go boom.
Yeah, go big or go home, man.
The long tube header, it's going to have to get cut at the flange. I'm going to clean the flange back down flat and then clock the pipe to where it's coming off 90 and then going downward, so it'll clear the bar for the suspension flex on my kart, which eventually the bar is going to be cut out anyways because I want to slam a 420 on it. That'll be a little while. I'll do a lot of bracing and stuff to the back end first.
And get bigger pocketbooks.
Yes. And my favorite thing, like all the engine stuff, awesome, but my favorite thing that I got for the Yerf Dog is what I direly needed was a new set of front tires.
Yeah, we got to burn them up.
You look at the front tires that are on it now, and from about midways out, you got the faintest outline of tread. From the midways in, they're racing slicks, and then some. So, it's definitely due for those. But of course, when these go on, the front spindles, because production welding, they slap shit together and go. I'm shaving the welds on the front and back of the spindle, leaving the weld in the center and heating it, and tilt my spindles back so I can actually clock my camber angle the way it should be. That way I'm riding on the whole tire and not just the inside belts. So it should help her with plowing like she does. Probably won't tighten up the steering radius. Hell, you can barely turn her around on a football field unless you whip it. So,
which is fun.
Yeah, it is. But it'll give me more traction. Hopefully it'll help her on the whole plowing situation. Plus, they just look good.
Yeah. I mean, they're shiny.
Yeah. And they're every bit of 1.5 inches taller than what the other ones are, because the other ones are 8 down so far. Same size tire overall, but it just, you put it side by side and it's a hell of a lot more rubber. So
yeah, I'm really impressed on the compression that we've gained on these two small engines here. The compression release helps some, but it's hard to pull these engines over. Go ahead and tug it a couple times.
If it's sitting at top,
I mean, you can,
when you snatch that rope, it's
you can hear the displacement in this engine. You hear that? That's some serious displacement we got going. I bet you it's probably 3 times harder to pull these engines now than a stock engine. I'll show you what I mean on this one, because we've done the same thing to this, only it's the Hemi. But you roll around, you hit the compression release, and then it just, right there. I mean, there's some serious compression in these engines. We might have to build us one of those starter setups with a battery. You push the button and set it on the flywheel bolt to start them.
I'm definitely gonna have to probably clock my pull rope, or just not let girl child start it.
Yeah.
Slam right into the engine.
Bring it up on compression and go right past the compression, and then start it after that, so you can get some momentum going.
You gotta get a good little run to it.
Yeah, it's cool how much compression these engines have gained, and it's almost like they're a high displacement engine at this point, even though they haven't been stroked or anything.
And if I can get it to take it, I'm gonna keep stepping her up and see what she'll take. Eventually, it's gonna sling a rod through the block. That's how this one is gonna die. The last one I fried the rings in. Hopefully, everybody's seen the video by now. Insert link.
Yeah, I might actually try to grab a clip of, just a clip of you going around and smoking that engine out.
Around that corner, man. As soon as I hit turn 1, it poofed, and I stayed in it the whole way.
Oh yeah, go big or go home, man.
Well, this one I eventually want to have it built to the point, if I know it can take it, to where you'll have to grab the pull rope and take off running to start it.
Stretch you a bungee cord from a tree over to the pull rope, and then cut a tie rope so it just snatches it all at once.
We're gonna see what I'm gonna see what it'll do, and I'll either, like I said, it's either gonna put a rod through the block, or I'm gonna blow the fucking head off of it. Like she's gonna be spectacular either way she goes. So
that would be interesting. I've never seen that. They have so much compression you blow the center out of the head on an engine.
I've seen it rip the studs loose on like a full-size racing car.
Yeah.
But not small engine. But I've seen them to where after so many hits, it's actually pulled the studs and start pulling the threads out of the block.
Yeah.
But never blown them completely off. I mean, it usually just loosened them up till it blew the head gasket.
Well, we ever do a stroker, we're definitely putting ARP head bolts in it and thread locking those in.
Oh, yes.
And if we do a stroker, we'll need a little bit bigger compression chamber. So it's possible we might blow the middle out of one. Who knows?
The only other thing that would have me concerned with this motor, the rod not taking what it can take. I mean, then again, I'm not 100% sure what this motor is going to do as far as power output. So the other one,
if the compression test is right, we're right at 12 to 14 horsepower on this engine right there. And that one right there is running about the same with the compression test. But it's hard to do with the compression release. So you actually have to set the engine up so that it's on the, you lash the valve on the compression release in order to actually get an accurate compression setting on it.
Or spin it fast enough that it doesn't engage, which takes a drill.
Yeah, and you spin it that fast, you're still losing a little bit on compression, on the compression test. But the only real way to test these with that compression release is to, honestly, 100%, so that you're not having any leakages, to set it up where you set your exhaust valve lash on the compression release instead of the way it should be. That's the only way I know to do it.
And the only other thing I have a fear of with this motor is melting a hole in the center of my piston.
No, not with that. Not with the new plug, because we gained like 2 more mil of clearance with that new plug because it's a shorter shaft.
That's true, but with the fuel that I run, I buy regular pump gas premium, and then I cut it myself with jet fuel. So
that might have something to do with your rings burning up that time. Yeah,
it could be part of it, but I think my dumb ass just put too much oil in it and pumped too much over. And it seeped in around the ring, sitting there, and just smoldered it.
Yeah.
As long as it was running, it was still pulling. She was just down on power. Once I shut her down and let her cool down and grabbed the rope, dude, it was like pulling a pull rope just in the housing, not even connected to an engine. Like she was done.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if these blow up, they're a little more epic than just smoking out a track. We want to see fragments flying.
Oh yeah.
But at the same token, this is also a really good test on building the top end of an engine
without
touching the lower end.
And seeing what'll happen.
And see what it'll take. But both of these engines have been run, so they have a little bit bigger clearances on any of the, like the connecting rod going to the crank and all that. They've been broke in. So we have a little bit more clearances on these. Instead of taking a brand new engine, we're taking one that's got a few hours runtime on them, and then building the crap out of the top end and see just what happens to the bottom end. And I don't know, we're going to see if a flywheel explodes or not, which I've never seen that happen. I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, I know somebody that had it happen," but I've never seen it happen.
I don't see that happen.
I've never met anybody directly that's had a flywheel blow up on one of these, and we're going to put that to the test.
I don't see it happening even if you sheared the output shaft off and just held her down to 10,000 RPMs. Like, you'll sling the rod through the block before the flywheel disintegrates.
Yeah, I mean, that's a heavy piece of steel to be blowing up.
Unless you've dropped it or you've ground on it or you've heated
dropped
it
or cracked it, yeah.
A spot, you know, then you might have a chance of it failing, metal fatigue, whatnot. But
yeah,
as far as a new stock flywheel and over revving, I don't see it coming apart.
Yeah, the only... And this is my opinion, there's going to be a lot of people argue, but I think the only real benefit in a billet flywheel is they spool up faster. They're lighter, so you have less weight spinning your engine up,
I mean,
and they spool faster.
But,
you know, they have less weight they're spinning.
But it's what, $90, 50 to $90, I think. What I found them for a flywheel. I mean, the only other good thing about it is it's automatically advanced for your timing. You can go up to 32 degrees from what I found.
Now, see, I had a 4-degree advanced timing key in that engine at one time.
Sheared it.
And whenever I set the valves, I was tired, and when I pulled it, it kicked back on me, and it sheared the timing key. That little, 4-degree advanced timing key got sheared off on that. And so I threw it out, and I put the stock timing key back in it, and then timed it with a gear. The gears in the engine as opposed to, a timing key. It's just like a half-thickness timing key.
Now, as far as getting it to spin fast enough for the flywheel to come apart, you might get it to rev and to spin fast enough to sling the magnet out.
Yeah.
But the body of the flywheel itself, it'd have to have some damage, a major casting defect, or you had to have heated it with a torch in just a spot and change the structure of the metal. But I mean, I don't see you blowing one apart.
I mean, look at some of the videos online. They take a thin little CD and they got to ramp it up to 10,000 RPMs, and then it blows up. And records, they do that like that too.
Yeah.
But that's a thin little piece of plastic that has no structure whatsoever to it, and then the harmonics blow it up. But that's a big ass piece of metal.
Yeah.
I mean, those flywheels aren't no joke. And if anybody on here has seen a flywheel blow up on a stock fly, I want proof.
Video would be great.
Pictures, video, something. Yeah, I want to see one of these stock flywheels that's blown up, because I've never heard of it, I've never seen it, and I've never been able to do it. And I've ripped governors out of Briggs push lawnmowers and run them wide open and cut grass, and I cut grass with that thing running 10,000 RPMs, and it was stock. I mean, it was an old beater, but it was stock. And I cut grass with that thing for 3 years, and finally the engine ripped loose from the deck from all the vibration and strain of that engine running wide open. But that flywheel never did come apart. So I don't know. I have to see it, because I've never seen it, and I've looked for hours trying to find pictures of one that's blown up, but I've never seen one blow up.
Yeah. But I mean, if anybody actually has proof of that happening, I mean... Oh yeah,
please, man. I want to see it.
I have no problem with being corrected at all.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I've never seen proof of it and never had it happen. And I mean, I've been messing with these engines like this for, oh my goodness, since I was like 12, so 31 years I've been messing with these kind of small engines. So, and I've never had it happen. I mean, I haven't been messing with them constantly, but I've messed with a lot of them. I've worked on a lot of these engines and riding lawnmowers, and I've never had it happen. I've had connecting rods go through the block, which is kind of fun, but...
Oh, yeah. But that's
I've even busted a crankshaft in two.
I would say 90% of the fails with these engines is the rod snapping.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, I have seen them where the input shaft is sheared.
Oh, yeah.
They were also, though, set up on, like, wood chippers and shit, and people threw way too big
Oh,
chunks.
yeah, and then just dead stopped it. But I've always seen shear the key shear on a flywheel.
But never seen a flywheel blow apart.
No, never. Yeah.
Anybody's got that?
Right over there's the dog, man. But yeah, you guys look around, man. Try to find us some pictures or something of a flywheel, because I think it'd be cool just to see the shear pattern on it.
And then, honestly, I get into a position to where I can do it. I'll buy one of these engines and then gradually weaken the flywheel till it comes apart just to see what it will take.
Oh yeah, that would be fun to take a angle grinder and cut some grooves in it. But we want to be behind a big tree with a long rope for a throttle, and then just yank it and hold it. But
Gallatin can probably loan me the bomb squad suit.
yeah, that's right. You know them.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. The odds of it happening, I think. I ain't saying it can't happen. I'm just saying the odds of it are.
I think it would have to be. I think it'd have to be flawed in the first place,
Yeah.
or you got the wrong flywheel on there, so the angle of the flange in that flywheel is wrong, and you impact the crap out of it and force it on there, so you're forcing outward pressure on it to begin with. Then it might fail, but I just have to see it to believe it. You know, I've heard it, but then again, there's a lot of stuff out there that I've heard that has been proven wrong. Anyway, me and Brad are gonna play around here a little bit more, and then I'll be heading to work, and you know, yay, and then off to Missouri tomorrow.
This weather ever lets up, I'll be welding in some more bracing for the bearing plates on the Yerf dog.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Once I get that welded in, I'll be ready to set this motor back in there because I got to pull the swing arm off to get full weld around it.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about you going to be doing that.
Yeah, I've pulled the motor on and off of this thing from the stock motor when I first got it to this point. I've pulled the motor off of this thing at least 8 different times.
Oh, I got you beat with that ATV. I'm probably up in the 50s.
Oh, dude, I've only had this go-kart since May, and I've pulled it off about 8 different times.
Yeah.
It's only been twice to actually swap the motors.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun though.
Yeah.
I mean, we put it on there and it's like, man, it's doing great. But hey, I got some 18-pound valve springs. Let's throw those on there. And it's like, you know, okay, we get those on there, and then about a week later, it's like, hey, Brad, I just found 2 stainless push rods. Let's throw those on there.
But,
oh, okay. Well, while we're doing it, let's shave the head. I mean, it's just been, you know, put it together, run it, take it apart. Put it together, run it. And it hasn't been for breakdowns. It's just been, this is going to be fun.
Okay, it's like we built it and got a little more out of it, plateaued with the fun, and was like, all right, let's rip it off and step her up a little more.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm going to weld in to reverse those bearing plates and everything, and I'm going to go ahead and do it since I got the motor off, because I'll have to pull the swing arm from the cart to actually do it right. And it don't take me long to pull this motor, and it's not really hard. I mean, in total, you pull the torque converter, which I can leave the plate and everything else on, but it's easier to just pull it, go ahead and get it out of the way so I can spin the engine sideways to get it out. It's 4 bolts for the engine mount, a kill switch, throttle cable, and the torque converter.
Yeah.
Which, to get that, all you really technically have to do is break the chain.
Yeah.
If you pull the torque converter, you got to pull the main drive bolt, pull the drive pulley.
Yeah, it's like 5 bolts to pull the torque converter, and you can pull it off and just let it hang.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a chore to pull the engine. It's just I've done it so many frickin' times already. I'm just going to go ahead and do what I got to do since I got it off.
Yeah, so you'll probably be working on that tomorrow, if it's nice. Yeah.
But I've taken the swing arm off of it completely once. And once you get the engine out of the way, taking the swing arm off is not bad. Of course, I had to drop the axle, and I put the plates in.
It's 2 swing arm mount bolts and then the shock bolts, and it's off.
Yeah, and then take out the axle. It's literally 6 bolts, and loosen the set screws on the bearings and slide them inward, and then drop it out. However, even with it coming out that easy, putting it back together like that,
by yourself. Yeah, by yourself.
And a big thing that I realized, because you know I got a little gung ho when I did it, because when I took the swing arm completely off, I'd already dropped the axle. Well, I put the axle back in the swing arm when I got done welding it up and reinforcing the insides of it. I put the axle back in, rolled it up to the cart, bolted it in. Was like, cool, I'm almost there.
Yeah, it's like a wheelbarrow.
And then realized you have to connect the shocks to the swing arm before you put the axle in, because the sidewalls of the tire won't let you run your bolts from the outside in. And if you run them from the inside out, your tire deflection will cause your sidewall to rub the end of the bolt. Everybody knows what happens when that happens. So I had to drop the axle again, mount the shocks put the bolts through, put the nut on them to start just enough to hold them in place, because I wouldn't risk one of them falling out while I was doing something else and have to go through it again.
Yeah.
And then fight the axle back in it. And it's actually a hell of a lot harder to put the axle back in when the swing arm's on the cart and already on the shock. Because then you got to raise and lower the whole cart instead of just putting the swing arm in place.
Yeah.
But now that I know that, I can refine that process, and it'll be a whole lot easier than it was.
On these Makunis, by the way, your fuel line goes up here, that barb right there. This hose here is for the vent on the top of your fuel tank.
From what we can gather, if
Yeah.
anybody knows different, I'm all ears.
I'm almost 100% on that, but that right there go up there.
But
then the hose on the very bottom of the carburetor down there, that's if your float sticks, it's down there on the bowl. If your float sticks, it doesn't allow the fuel to build up in your carburetor and flood down into your cylinder. It overflows and drains out of that, and that hose is to get it past your engine and drain it down onto the ground. But that's what that's for.
Yeah, but I mean, and we're, like I said, we're pretty much 100% sure about this going to the vent line and everything.
Yeah, the vent on top of the fuel tank.
But if anybody knows any different, feel free to correct us, because I do not want to destroy a $100+ carb.
No, we're not going to destroy the carb. We might blow the side of the block out or something, which is pretty cool.
But I mean, I don't want to connect the
Then we'll go to Harbor Freight and complain that their engine wasn't up to par. It was a defective engine with a ported head and shaved. And...
But I mean, looking at this engine, the only parts that have been added to this engine, like internally, are the 18-pound valve springs.
Yeah, and that was $15 plus shipping.
And of course, the valves have been lapped, so I got a good seal there. And then of course, the plug wires, it's changed. But I mean, one of those plug wires, if you've got a V8, Chevy, Ford, either one, and you're going from, the front distributor, wherever it be, to the front on a Chevy, or, the later model Fords, when you come out to the coil, which you got the coil over plug, so you don't have plug wires.
Yeah.
But the older ones, the distributor set a little far forward. So you can take one of the wires that runs from there to the number 8 or the number 1 plug and make 2 or 3 plug wires out of it.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? 7, 8 inches?
4.5 inches.
Oh, is it?
5 inches? Yeah, it's short. It's short.
But yeah, and then you could buy the boots and clips real cheap.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's easier to go with 6mm wire. That's an 8mm wire, because that's what I had. I had a set of make your own wires for the boat, and
6mm would be easier.
Yeah.
But the 8mm, take the end that goes down into the coil, and just
scrape it. Yeah.
Fine sandpaper, and then tip it up and bevel it a little bit. And I mean, I threaded it down in so far by hand, wrapped cardboard around it, and grabbed it with needle nose just enough to get that friction and grip to it, and spun her down about another 4 turns, and indexed my boot the direction I needed to go, and that was it. And it was simple. It took 10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
It's mostly fighting the heat shield to get it to slide over the wire.
Yeah, that heat shield's tight on that 8mm, but at the same token, that heat shield is never going to move. It's on there really tight. So I actually prefer it being that tight.
But as far as parts added, 18-pound valve springs, the long tube header, the adapter for the Makuni, and of course the little valve cover vent.
And that plug wire. And the plug. Yeah, the E3, Bosch Platinum E3
the sad
plug.
thing about that is, I have as much in that carburetor as I do the entire motor.
Yeah.
But thankfully, carburetors, as long as you take care of them and you don't run a bunch of junk through them, you blow the motor, you can salvage the carb, unless you just completely blow the motor.
Well, actually, you could salvage a lot of that. You could salvage the springs,
you can
possibly the valves.
You could probably salvage the head if you just sling a rod through the block.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Yeah, everything we've done to the top, if you blow that rod, you could salvage everything else.
But I mean,
But knowing us, we're probably going to blow a hole right through the middle of that head. I mean, that's the way our luck goes.
It's going to cook down the piston and splatter it up, weld the valve shut.
That would be interesting. We would have to do an autopsy. You blow one, we're doing an autopsy here.
Either way, it's going to get ripped apart, find out what went wrong, and what we can do cheaply, and the DIY in your garage way to keep it from happening again.
And see, this one here, I'm going just as cheap budget as possible on that engine, and it's just a coil wire, 18-pound valve springs, and then I did my internal drilling and stuff like that, which is all free. And then I'll have to put me the salvage oil salvage tank, which is already on the cart, and I've got a $20 carburetor in the basement that I'm going to throw on there, and it's actually a 32 millimeter carb. And then I'm making my own carb adapter for it, so I'll have like $40 and $43 in the entire mod on this engine.
His $20 carb is actually a Mikuni clone, and it looks, for the most part, it looks just like a Mikuni. Functions exactly like one and everything. Mine is the actual branded Mikuni. And I mean, I could have bought one of the $20 clones, probably had the same performance, but we know what they can do. I've never owned a Mikuni. This is my first Mikuni on an engine. So what we're going to do, we're going to run mine with the name brand Mikuni and compare it with his with the knockoff brand. See which one gives you the most bang for your buck, or lack thereof buck. So,
and honestly, I think between the Hemi and non-Hemi, the way we've got them built now, we're going to have pretty much the same performance.
Yeah, they're probably pretty damn equal.
Yeah,
so,
I think we're going to be running right about the same, because our compression is right on the money with both engines.
Well, then again, though, mine could turn out to be a dog and his could be a beast. His could turn out to be a dog, mine could turn out to be a beast, or they could both be paperweights.
Yeah, it could be I fire this thing up, rev it one time, and smoke the rings in it, and then I'm like, oh, wow, okay, Brad, I've met your club now.
Yup. We won't know until that happens. Right now, I'm not going to say we're flying blind, because we know, for the most part,
this is not our first rodeo on this.
Yeah, for the most part, we know what we're doing. I stepped outside of the box when it came to porting and polishing, though, and I pushed a little farther to see how much you could actually take out.
Yeah.
And I sat out here, right here in this spot, with my Dremel set to 30,000 RPMs and a high-speed cone mill bit. Like, I didn't sand or grind, I shaved out aluminum.
And see, I used a $10 3/8 inch RAF style metal file is what I used to port my head. And then he used the power port, and we pretty much got the same results. He went a little bit bigger on his than I did.
I opened up my runners a lot more, and I took a little more off the sealing of around the valve's stem guide than he did.
Yeah, I like leaving the stem guide alone. It's just my preference.
And it's a little harder to get up there with a file.
Yeah.
That mill bit, I just flip her over and just shaved it right on down.
And then, of course, he lapped his valves with hand cleaner, and I did mine with toothpaste. And they worked great. I mean, we got some serious compression.
And I mean, in the hand cleaner, toothpaste, of course, toothpaste is
a little bit finer, yeah.
At buffing out scratches. The hand cleaner with the pumice, you know, it does a nice grind job, and of course the pumice breaks up as it polishes it down to a non-porous surface, so you don't eat too hard too fast. But you also get the citrus of the fast orange that cleans all the carbon buildup from around the stem, the lip of the valve, everything. Like, the valves in there look brand new. You look at the chamber itself, and it's just one big half plastered blot of carbon.
Yeah, and see,
shiny valve in the middle.
Yours is citrus. Yeah. Mine's minty fresh. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna cut this out here. We're running a little bit long, but anyway, you know, if I get this up in time, we'll see you guys on E-Tart Adventures tonight. You guys have a great day and try to stay dry. And Batman, I'm still wondering where your fishing gear was whenever you were out there in the mud pit. See y'all later.
Bat boat.
Yeah, the bat boat. That's it. It needed fins.
And once this weather clears up and I can actually bust out the welder and do some fabricating, I'll have a video up of me bracing that back end out. I'll run through again what I did as far as sliding the 3/4 solid bar down the swing arm.
Yeah.
And I'll have the first firing of this engine since it's been modified.
Yeah, you've got the login for my YouTube, so you can go ahead and, you know, post up your own video. You could even go live if you want to.
I can throw it on my channel. I got 13 or 14 subscribers. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm at 199 subscribers. We're almost going to hit a 200 subscriber plateau, and we'll have to figure out something weird, crazy, or cool to do for that.
Well, see, I've got the 13, and like I said, I thank y'all. I appreciate it. Some people's like, oh, it's 13, big whoop. I have no videos uploaded. None. So my 13 are just sitting in the club.
Yeah, it's just people like you. You know, it's just people that like you and that have met you through... you know, met you through the meet and greet, and you know, through guest appearances on my channel, and us doing the drift cart thing and the Yerf dog.
And I guarantee you, 2/3 of them, they probably know my name from the videos, but I'd say 2/3 of them, if you said my name, they'd look at you funny and be like, the guy that blew the rings up on the course. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the guy that blew the rings out of the Yerf dog. Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah. He's the Yerf Dog guy. We'll see you guys again next time.